It's the afternoon of Thursday, the 25th of April 2024. It's Anzac Day here in New Zealand. It's a public holiday. It's an important day in the national identity of the country. It's similar to Veterans Day in the US. Right, okay, so I'll crack straight into it. I have to get my umbrella balanced. Okay, so I'll give you the basic structure of the video. I'm going to give an introduction, then I will give the dream. So one introduction, 2, I'll give you the dream, and then 3, I'll give an interpretation and a discussion. Here we go, straight into it. So I had this dream about, I had to pause to think about that for a bit. I don't remember the exact date, but it was in February of this year. It was about, 8 to 10 weeks ago, roughly. But yeah, it was February of 2024. And yeah, it was pretty short and sweet and simple and to the point, as many of my dreams from God of the prophetic nature are, but there was quite a, I was about to say there was quite a bit to it. There wasn't that much to it, but it was striking and it stood out because it was an important message about something that a lot of people really fear. Alright, so I'll just tell you what I was shown. So that's the introduction. Now here's the dream. Okay, so I will put a link in the description box to a Google Maps pin of the location that I was shown. And then I'll also put a link to, I'll see if I can find some photos. I think actually I did have a look after I had the dream. In the immediate week, there goes my umbrella from the wind. In the immediate week after I had the dream, I looked online on YouTube to see if I could find some photos of this mountain range, so I could, link it to you guys in the description box so you could see what I was shown, more or less. And from memory, I'll see if I can find it after I film this. But from memory, there's actually a really good aerial drone video. And it shows almost exactly what I was shown. So the scenery was, it was a rainforest mountain valley, and it was kind of intermediate gradient, so not vertical, but not really slow and kind of gentle. It's sort of 45-degree angle, but it was quite a wide sculpted valley, and the view was as if the God's eye view in the dream. It was as if I was looking out of a drone or a helicopter. I have many prophetic dreams from God of this nature where I get this kind of view, and it was like I was seeing from the drone's perspective, and it was just moving slowly down the valley. But I was about probably 1,500 feet, that's 500 meters above the ground, so I could see miles and miles, or kilometers and kilometers, both off to my left, to my right, and out in front of me. And what I was shown was a very, very beautiful tropical rainforest, and it's in northern Queensland, in a protected area. It's now called, I think it's called Kulla National Park, Kulla, and I think the name for it was either the Iron Range or the Mcllwraith Range. And I've been aware of this protected area because I get an energetic sense. I feel attracted to certain places on the planet based on their energy, and there's always quite an intuitive psychic person. So that's I'm just drawn to certain locations, and there's always a reason for it. And I'm actually planning to do I'd love to do conservation work on the Cape York Peninsula in Australia in the future. And so I was familiar. God showed me this particular rainforest area in the dream, and it's actually very, very remote, and almost no one would have heard of it globally. Basically, no one would have heard of it globally, and very few Australians, I think, have even heard of it. So, it was pretty simple. The view was of this, just this beautiful verdant green rainforest. It looked kind of turquoise and emerald color, and I could see a little river running down the valley below me, and then I could see the sea out beyond that, and I could see coral reefs, and there were a few clouds in the sky. It was similar, yeah, if I can find the video, if I do find it, it looks similar to what you see in the video, except it was a bit, the terrain was a bit rougher, and it looked more, it was steeper, and there was a very strong sense in the dream of remoteness and isolation, which is actually accurate. So just, yeah, I do need to give a bit of context around this too. So the Cape York Peninsula, I'll correct myself in the description box below, it's something like 13 million hectares or 130,000 square kilometers, which is like, you know, it's larger than New Zealand's North Island. I think it's bigger than that. But do you know how many people live there? It's about 15,000 people. I think it's not even that. I'm not sure it's even 15,000 people live in this land area. You know, it's like you know, it's like about the size of England and Wales put together. I think it might be bigger. I think it might be the size of the island of Great Britain. But instead of 60, yeah, as I said, I'll check the description box, I'll correct the exact numbers, but this is roughly it. But instead of having 67 million people on the island of Britain, you know, there's 15,000 people living there. Yet the landscape is actually extremely beautiful and extremely lush. I mean, you could potentially, it could easily support millions of people. It's just empty. It's just one of the last frontiers of Australia. Another one of those last frontiers is Arnhem Land at the top of the Northern Territory, which is, there's still very heavy Aboriginal presence in those areas. And it's another area I'd like to visit in the future. But yeah, so Cape York, yeah, and the Cape York Peninsula is known in the conservation community globally because it's quite special because it's still very intact ecologically because there hasn't been much human interference. There's just, you know, there's been a bit of ranching and things, but its biodiversity is mostly intact. So it's quite it's a special place from a cultural and a biological point of view. A lot of the Aboriginal cultures up there are still intact, which is cool, which is great too. And well, that's relevant, me saying that, because, you know, that's partly why God showed me this in the dream. The Holy Spirit started talking to me towards the end of the camera view going down the valley, and then I started to see, it switched to an image and I could see enormous mushroom clouds going off around the world, you know, of mushroom clouds that were detonations of nuclear weapons. And the Holy Spirit began speaking to me, and what she was saying was pretty simple. It was just saying more or less that nuclear war is coming, so World War III will be a nuclear war, and it will be full-blown nuclear war. It's not just going to be one or two, it's going to be, you know, it is the worst case scenario. So as detailed in videos which I posted prior, I will actually post the links below. I've got two main ones covering the subject. I've got a video talking about the surprise nuclear strike on the US, which everyone has been shown. I'll put a link to that one in the description box. I'll put a link to the video which accompanies it, which is practical and relevant, which tells Americans how to prepare and what the final warning sign will be, which will be I think it's Robert A. Avila, who calls himself the man from Modesto. He has a channel on YouTube. He's another prophetic Christian YouTuber called No Jesus, No Peace. God showed him that the final warning sign for Americans to leave before the nuclear strikes will be when Japan, quote, folds to China after they nuke Japan. It looks like Japan, many people have seen this in dreams, Japan's going to be hit with nuclear weapons in the early stages of the Pacific campaign of World War III, and it looks like they come from North Korea. And then when you see Japan get nuked, like God told Robert A. Avila, that's the signal for Americans, like, you've got to go. Now's the time you should leave. With you'll still have plenty of time in advance, but that's the point. So you're warned in advance. And, you know, I've had dreams similar, you know, for the upcoming enormous Tongariro mega eruption, which is going to happen later this decade in New Zealand, and that Hikurangi the Trans-Tasman megaquake swarm of 4 enormous earthquakes, which I've been shown is going to happen here in New Zealand. The feeling is that's probably going to happen I got shown that happens in summer. And my gut feeling is summer 2026, but I have no idea. I haven't been shown the year. But for that, again, God actually showed me, like, the warning sign, the last there'll be a warning shot before that, and then it's like the last warning for New Zealanders to leave the country before it gets smashed. So yeah, I mean, the bad news is nuclear war is coming, and all these disasters and things are coming. I mean, the good news is you're getting warnings from people like me. It's not about me, it's about the message, and it's about the collective effort too. That's why I have the playlists, but I do have a role to play here. And I think this is an important dream because a lot of people, there's this idea out there, a very common idea, and I've actually talked, when I tell people that I've been shown that there's going to be a third world war, some of them say, oh, but that means it'll be nuclear, and that means it'll be the end of the world. And then, well, no, it won't be. This is what God was... So God was basically, the Holy Spirit was showing me this so that God could kind of reassure me and the audience. It's going to be full-blown nuclear war. Dude, they're going to be chucking around nuclear weapons like free candy. I mean, I've been shown that they're going to use freaking tactical nuclear weapons during the invasion of New Zealand. I've got videos. You can see I've got a previous video on my channel about that. It's just the preview. I haven't put the full dream up yet. Haven't had time. I'm still in a stressful survival situation, so I have many dreams I've just done previews for. I haven't been able to put the full dreams out because I'm not able to yet. But yeah, I've been literally shown. I've had 5 dreams, recurring dreams, showing that I was shown Russia specifically. They're going to use small tactical nuclear weapons on little freaking Wellington. Wellington has a population. The city itself only has a population of 250,000 people, 250,000 people. New Zealand only has a population of 5.2 million. We're actually, by land area, we're a medium-sized country. That's a misconception. We're bigger than, we're not that much smaller than Germany. And I think, yeah, but okay, so we're not a small country by land area, but by population, globally speaking, we're quite small. We're relatively, we're not that big. So don't get me wrong, I actually love New Zealand, and New Zealand is, as a country, punches well above its weight in many areas, in sports and science and technology and arts and culture, and especially in science and technology, actually, anyway, in many areas, and other things. We're the first to put, had the first, it was a New Zealander who was the one of 2 people who jointly, together with a Nepalese Sherpa, we put, along with that Nepalese guy, Tenzing Norgay, the first man on top of the highest mountain in the world, Mount Everest. So New Zealand punches well above its weight. So yeah, we're not, I would actually say we're quite significant given our insignificant size globally, which is something I'm quite proud of as a part New Zealander, and a lot of Kiwis are. But globally, New Zealand is an insignificant country. This is the ferry, Inter-Islander ferry, which goes from the South Island to the North Island across the Cook Strait, leaving through the Marlborough Sounds now. We're an insignificant, small and insignificant country on a global scale from a geopolitical perspective. Okay, so not, because Kiwis can be a bit insecure about this, being told, oh, you're small and insignificant, which I understand, and we're not, but Kiwis shouldn't be, because we're just not. There's nothing to be insecure about. But yeah, geopolitically, we're very insignificant. We're like a little freaking piece of plankton. We're like a little. Okay, we're like a small. Okay, you can't see my finger. We're a small fish compared to the US, Chinas, and Russias of the world, which are like the ship. And they will be using nuclear weapons in New Zealand, okay? So they're going to be using nuclear weapons everywhere. I mean, people have been shown they're going to drop like 200 on the United States. And they're going to be using nukes. They're going to nuke the UK, they're going to nuke Canada, they're going to nuke Australia. Many, Australians have been shown that, Canadians have been shown that. I've been shown nuclear strikes on the UK. Jan de Villiers has been shown nuclear strike specifically on London. Jan de Villiers from South Africa has been shown the same nuclear strike on London. Oh, those are horrible dreams. Oh, very disturbing. There will be, the dream I had a dream. I need to put that one up. I haven't put that one up yet, but I was shown a view from space of the nuclear strikes on the US, and it looked like firecrackers going off. There were so many. There was like 50 to 100 nuclear detonations, and they happened within almost all at once. It was simultaneous. It was insane. So yeah, it's going to be full-blown nuclear war. I mean, I've had dreams about that too. There's going to be problems with nuclear radiation from the fallout. It's probably going to be a limited nuclear winter. So I mean, that's the bad news, and it is bad. But I mean, the good news is, which is amazing, that God is so good and loving, and God will warn His people in advance. God always warns. So yeah, we're getting the warnings, which is great. So forewarned is forearmed. So you know what's coming, you can prepare, and you can completely skip it. You won't have to be involved. You won't have to be within 2,000 kilometers of an area where nukes are going to go off. Probably more like 5,000 or 6,000 kilometers if you're down in Chile or Argentina. So, okay, that's the first part of the good news. The second part of the good news is Earth will survive. And then towards the end of the dream, you can't see my hand now, but the Holy Spirit was saying, basically to me, after I saw those images of the nuclear detonations and the nuclear weapons going off, she was basically saying to me that the Earth has been through much worse in the past, and that the Earth as a planet. Personally, I believe the Earth. Okay, so yeah, I believe the Earth is a living, conscious being. I believe so. Yeah. I think all planets have consciousness, actually, at a deeper level. A lot of people might not share that belief. That's what I believe. But yeah, I won't. Well, I'll refer to Earth as a planet here. But in the dream, the Holy Spirit was just saying Earth, as a planet. I'll call Earth a she here, but for purposes of this channel, I'm not saying that the Earth is a living, sentient being, although I believe that. But yeah, the Holy Spirit basically said as in she, referring to her as an inanimate object in the dream. Like, yeah, she's been through much worse than this in the past. Much, much worse. The Earth has been through many, many cataclysms, and the Holy Spirit was basically saying, just relax, don't worry, because at the end of the day, it is going to be terrible. It is going to be this terrible war. It's going to be this terrible storm and time of darkness, 20 years, but it's not going to destroy the world. It's going to destroy a lot of human civilization, but the Earth's going to be just fine at the end. And the Earth will take some damage, but I was also shown the Earth's extremely resilient, and people underestimate how strong and resilient this planetary system is, and how resilient this planet is. So yeah, I guess it theoretically would be possible if we had a full-blown nuclear war where the Americans were actually able to do a full counterstrike of Russia, that we could wipe out all human life on Earth. But people have been shown that's not what will happen. So apparently it looks like basically Chinese and Russian spies have infiltrated the US to such a degree because the country has become so corrupt. So enough Americans have sold out their own people that a lot of, if not most of the American nuclear missiles will be deactivated. To be clear, people have been shown there will be a American counterattack when the nuclear strikes happen. People have even had dreams where they've been shown Donald Trump selecting nuclear targets, and they were all over the planet. And there was the Americans were heading, I haven't got that clear yet, but I've seen some dreams, and they were okay, it was like Delhi, Azerbaijan, it was like Delhi, Baku, there was some city in Russia, they were hitting targets all over the planet, and Donald Trump, I believe it will be Trump who's in office when this happens. It was, extremely serious meeting. He was in a bunker. The US had just been a nuclear holocaust. They just had, 200 nuclear weapons, hit almost all large American cities and military bases, probably 30 to 70 million Americans dead. It's like, okay, gloves off. They push the button, and we're just going to hit them with everything we've got. But they won't. So yeah, people have shown the Americans will hit the Axis countries back with nuclear weapons, but it will be relatively limited. And yeah, the US is just going to get clocked. It's going to be like a king hit from behind. With that surprise attack's just going to take them out. It'll be a pretty quick defeat. And then yeah, the US gets invaded and occupied. They'll be under occupation, it looks like, for around 7 years before they somehow turn the tide of the war, kick everyone out, and then the tide of the war turns. It's going to be about it looks like it'll be about 7 years from roughly from 2022 to 2029. The Allies are just getting basically defeated, and then it culminates with the Axis forces completely crushing and defeating us, and then we'll all be conquered and under occupation for 7 years. Some of the countries like in Eastern Europe and East Asia will be under occupation for longer because they get conquered earlier in the war, but certainly I've been shown New Zealand will be under occupation, and New Zealand and Australia for about 7 years. I think it's the same for the US. So 2022 to 2029, we're getting our asses kicked. It culminates in utter catastrophe, and then just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it goes nuclear, and then it's just horrors beyond your imagination. That's why we're getting all these warnings. Like you don't. If you're not planning to fight, you shouldn't be here. And if you're fighting the Russians, you should die. It's better. It's in 90% of cases, you should die on the front. You should don't be taken alive, because you'll be tortured and it'll be horrific. And then for civilians, I have more dreams to post about that. I mean, it's so so grim. I had a dream I haven't posted yet about New Zealand under occupation period, and it was so depressing. People's spirits were so low and broken, and New Zealand women were having to prostitute themselves out just to get enough money to travel from the North Island to the South Island to visit relatives. They were having to, they had no money, so they had to sell their bodies just so they could make enough money to feed their families or to be able to travel. It's going to be horrific. So, and then 2022 to 2029, getting our asses kicked. Culminates in catastrophe around 2029, 2030, and that's when the Axis forces break the back of our strength by defeating the US, which will obviously be the core central country on the Allied side. With the defeat of the US, we're all screwed. Like everyone else will all be defeated and occupied. That will last about 7 years, so from around 2029 to 2030, from 2029, 2030 to around 2036 to 2037. And then there'll be by that point, the tide of the war has shifted, and now the Allies, the US is free. The US will liberate New Zealand, Australia, Canada, the UK. I've seen dreams of people have said they've been shown the US, quote, sacrificing everything to liberate those areas, and also South Korea, and then we're just going for payback. And then we're out for blood, and we're just extremely angry, and we bomb and invade every single country that attacked us, and then it's payback time from 2036/2037 to 2043, 2044, when the war ends. And the war's going to go for about 20 years. Yeah, and I mean, that's it. I should do a separate video summarizing that timeline, to be honest. Because that's the rough timeline. 777. 7 years defeat, losing, 7 years after the catastrophe when we're completely occupied, and then 7 years when it's catastrophe for the Axis, and then our countries will take turns giving each other their karma, and it will kind of be a meek and inheriting the earth scenario, because the really good people won't even, if they choose to, need to be involved in the war, because they're going to get these warnings from God, and then they'll just have miraculously been kept out of it and kept completely safe. But at the end of it, the planet will survive, and humanity will survive too. But a lot of people are going to die. But the ultimate message of the stream is hopeful. It was positive. And one of the reasons I had these intuitive downloads when I was meditating when I woke up in the days after I had that dream, that God showed me via the Holy Spirit that region of the world. So I think it's the Mcllwraith or Iron Range in Kulla National Park in the far north of Queensland, and tropical Queensland in Australia on the Cape York Peninsula. The reason I was being shown that area for the stream is this. It was a reference to how vast this planet is. That is such a beautiful part of the world. I love that. I love the north of Australia. I've travelled there. It's so beautiful. It's just divine. I mean, there are lots of parts of the planet that are especially beautiful, and that's one of them. The colours are just amazing. There's just no one living there. I mean, this planet is so big that there are still enormous areas where almost no one's living there, and most people in the world haven't even heard of them. And it's just, the planet's so big, like people can only hear of of so many places, and it's like, oh, haven't heard of that place. I mean, if you look at a map and you look at all the atolls, if you go on Google Earth and start to really look at all the coral atolls in the Pacific Ocean, I mean, if you wanted, you couldn't see like all the places you really want to see in one lifetime. You'd need 10, and you like, even with 10 lifetimes, you'd only be able to probably see, you know, like 5% of, you know, the places that you'd love to see on the planet. It's enormous, like it's vast. The Earth is really, really vast. So that was the message, you know. So here's this really beautiful, special place that's, you know, crazy beautiful with crazy levels of biodiversity, and no one's heard of it just because Australia is so freaking big, you know. And Australia is kind of like a metaphor for Earth because, you know, yeah, actually the planet's probably got planet's got too many people on it. If we were living differently, it wouldn't be the case. But from an ecological perspective, the planet has too many people living on it to sustain the current population with the way they're living. If we were living in a more sustainable manner, we could fit 10 to 15 billion. But yeah, right now, given the way people are living, yes, it's overpopulated. All the ecological systems are starting to collapse. That's in the biodiversity is crashing, so that's a sign of it. But at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's a really big, beautiful planet, and yeah, there's, you know, like there's 1.4 billion people in China and, you know, 1.4 billion people in India. But you get outside the the urban areas, and most of it's just still empty space, and it's just empty, and there's not many people. And yeah, so that's what I'll finish up with. People just underestimate the vastness and scale of this planet. And, you know, nuclear war won't destroy humanity, let alone the planet. So you've got nothing to worry about there. That's the good news. So yeah, nuclear war is coming. It will be basically a worst case scenario for humans, but humanity will survive. Like it's still gonna, like, even like the US, even after they get nuked, the US is still gonna survive. And the US not only survives, they still win the war. You know, they're gonna lead the Allied side to victory, and yeah, Earth will be okay. And it was, yeah, I was being shown that valley because, you know, I mean, Australia, I look at it, it's like an island. I think of it as an island, a private continent. It's the only country in the world. It's basically a small continent. It's the only one in the world that where, you know, it's just one country. Imagine if, you know, South America was just one country. It's like, yeah, no wonder they're so wealthy, because they've got these big cities with all this, you know, for service sector and lots of science and technology. But then they've got like every freaking natural resource you could think of. But Australia is so big, you know, like I've literally talked to Australians about some of these places, and they haven't heard of them. Like when I was in Ecuador, I met this guy from Melbourne. He was a bit of a dick to me initially. Then he kind of figured out I was a nice guy. I don't know, felt like I was a threat or something, and then kind of apologized, and we became friends after that. But yeah, it's a rough start, but he turned out to be a nice guy in the end. But he was from Melbourne. I told him about Arnhem Land in Northern Territory. He hadn't even heard of it. It's in his own country. And that place is enormous. You know, it's like, it's bigger than Belgium, and he hadn't heard of it, and it's in his own country. So yeah, I mean, this planet is so big and so vast, and it's just really resilient. So you got nothing to worry about in terms of nuclear war destroying the planet. Yeah, it's coming, and it's going to be bad, but the planet's been through worse. And so that's it. That's the message. So I believe that dream was prophetic. I believe that was from God. Please refer to the disclaimer in the description box below. I do need to do, well, and I probably should do a separate video of that timeline I talked about, but as I said, new plan on the channel, just know the new plan is there is no plan. I'm not making any promises, so yeah, I might do that in the future, but I'm just going to go off the flow. I'm still in survival mode. I'm doing my best, but you know, there's a lot of stress and pressure. I just need to focus on my health. So yeah, we'll see. That'd be a good topic for a future video, though. Might do that one. So I hope you guys are well. And oh yeah, I'm sitting in the bay where I found the weka yesterday, and it's not here. So I'll see if I can get an update from Doc. Hopefully. It looked like an old bird. Hopefully, I think they said they were going to send a ranger out here I called them yesterday, and I sent them Google Map coordinates and 2 photos, and they thanked me, and they said they were going to send a ranger out here to have a look this morning. So I'll update you guys on that if I can. But yeah. So that's it. I hope that was some value, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.